Hello, everyone. Hope you enjoyed the Muncha Muncha book, with a shout out to my husband who read the Mr. McGreely part, if you didn't figure that out. So here we go. We're going to look at vulnerable readers, and then we're going to jump into the teaching debrief that I spoke to you about last Friday in class. So we're going to just do a quick review first so that we place why we're talking about vulnerable readers. So we're just going to do a quick review here. So basically, over the past few lessons, you've hopefully kind of become aware of the essentials of commendable teaching of reading. So aspects such as time, that we want to have 95 minutes of time per day for the teaching of literacy, that you wanted a space that's conducive to literacy, lots of word walls, lots of chances for them to see words, and also to have access to those, how many books in your in-class library? 1,500 books in there. Also, we talked about resources such as box kits, like Literacy Place, which are in the Catholic schools here in Medicine Hat and in a number of public schools as well. The Basel Reading Series, and non-book kind of resources, which is basically everything digital and visual, and then authentic storybooks. The storybooks that we've done in class. So those are the aspects: time, space, resources. And also, hopefully you're starting to get the idea that the fundamentals of commendable teaching of reading include this lovely pyramid. So this is a reading pyramid, and you can see, let's see if I can do this. Okay, what color do we want? Blue? Magenta. Magenta's fun. Okay, so let's talk about, we've talked about reading comprehension. We've talked about phonemic awareness. We've talked about fluency. Where's that? Fluency. We've talked about vocabulary. We've talked about phonics. So we're starting, and here are comprehension strategies. So we've talked about a lot of these as sort of the fundamentals of a good reading program. Okay. Also, we looked at amazing instructional design for supporting commendable reading skills, and these instructional designs include, look at us, we were together just last week, hard to believe. Okay, so these instructional designs include reading to students. Oh, I'm gonna have fun again here. Reading to students, what should we do this time? I don't know what that color is, so let's see. Reading to students. Language experience, where we take them outside of the class and let them engage with language outside of the class. Book discussion groups, where they're actually picking a book and discussing it. We also have modeled reading, where we have the teacher is actually thinking out loud and actually sharing that. We have shared reading, where we as students and teachers can both see the print of the book. We have guided reading. Whoops, sorry, Haley, missed you there. Wow, there we are. We have guided reading, which is where we are specific in what we want to teach, and ultimately what we want them to be able to do is read independently. That's our ultimate goal. So that was just last week. Doesn't it seem like a lot in the world has happened since then? But there we were in S103. Okay, so that leads us now to vulnerable readers. So say in your classroom you've done all these great things. You've done some diagnostic assessment, you've done great planning, you built a wonderful schedule, you built your library from 6 to 1,500 books. You're trying to use activities and dosages from Joyful Literacy, and very playful things to engage the children with literacy. But you ultimately will most likely still have struggling or vulnerable readers. So How can we support those readers who need a lot of individual and individualized attention? So before we go on, let's just do a quick review of who these vulnerable readers are. So according to Joyful Literacy, which we looked at on Monday, I'm going to kind of focus this on those Tier 2 and Tier 3 students. So that the 30% that needs just more help than your regular amazing classroom support. They may not need it all the time or all year or their whole schooling career, but they need it at critical times. So we're going to focus on those 30%, keeping in mind though that 10%, that Tier 3, 10% of the 30 really do need concerted effort, both from you as a teacher, as well as from outside sources. Okay, so let's have a look. These are some things that you can do in class with your struggling readers. So basically, number one is, again, your in-class literacy teaching is their best way to become literate, both in reading and writing. But again, we're going to leave writing for a little bit. Do as much in class as possible with these struggling readers, okay? In-class instruction, again, has been researched that it is crucial and essential, and still where most of the literacy learning happens. So try to keep those kids in class as much as possible. Okay, number two, shift your mindset. So instead of thinking or saying, what's wrong with Jeremy? Ask, what does Jeremy need to learn in order to continue his development as a reader? And what can I do as the teacher to support that development? It just kind of changes the focus versus Jeremy is a pain in my class to, okay, I am the professional teacher. What do I need to do to help Jeremy along? And then it's a shift of mindset, which sometimes makes a huge difference to that child. Okay, number three, offer instruction in multiple modes and media. Okay, so again, we want to be taking those kids on field trips. Excuse me. We want to be bringing in guest speakers. We want to bring in, if you have parents that want to come in and help, bring those parents in. Let them read with these kids. Let them be your support. If you have used tons of picture books to support what these kids are trying to figure out in print, maybe if they connect those pictures and the print, it'll really help them. Bring in YouTube clips. Have lots of discussion. Bring in recordings. There's tons of ebooks out there now. Let them listen to books. Let them listen to fluent readers so that they are getting literacy in multiple modes and through multiple media. Okay, number four, simply increase literacy time. If you're teaching elementary, you have control of your schedule for most points. Sometimes you have to, if you have a music specialist or phys ed specialist or something, you have to send your kids to them at those points. But other than that, there may be times where you really want to increase your literacy time. So maybe at the beginning of the year, maybe you want to increase at the end of November, in January, sort of those really key moments. So what that'll do is it'll help those kids who really just need some more time just completing tasks to actually allow them to complete those tasks in class, okay? This is an increase in time, so if you're thinking about this, for explicit instructions on how to decode, learn sight words, work on comprehension, and this comes through targeted instruction. Okay, so again, you want that really targeted instruction. Exactly what are you doing and how are you going to get there? And I love the Joyful Literacy's concept of dosages. So some kids just need to see the material more often than others. And oftentimes those kids who are struggling need to see material 7, 10, 15, 27 times. Whereas a student that picks up on reading fairly quickly might only need 2 or 3 repetitions. So give those kids increased literacy time and just more dosages of the concepts that they are struggling with. Okay, number 5, avoid isolated concepts. Oftentimes we do worksheets or exercises that are isolated concepts, like doing a phonics worksheet on a C sound. And then maybe they never see a C in text, in context. So it's isolated, and we hope that they would take the concept from the worksheet, to the next time they see it in a book, but often they don't. So try to avoid those isolated concepts. Also, number 6, try to match materials and learners with texts. This is where you want to know your students so well, and you want to know children's literature so well that you can say to Billy, Billy, I have got the perfect book for you, and you're going to love it. And then you put that book in Billy's hands. If a learner spends too much time on a level beyond them, so if they have a book that's just way too hard that you're reading as a class, they will get frustrated. And what will also happen is older students will rebel. So if they don't want to read, if they're in grade 6, they don't want to read a kiddie book at a grade 1 level, even though that may be where they're at in their reading level, they don't want to be seen reading a book like that. And so that's where a whole series like Orca series, ooh, that's pretty color. Anyways, Orca series has come out with books that look like young adult kind of novels, but they actually are at a real variety of reading levels. So some of them are at a grade 2 reading level, some of them are a grade 4 reading level, but it makes them look like they are actually reading a book at their level. So what happens if we go, yeah, we had, oops, no, I'm just going to try to get rid of this now. I think I go to there. Whoo, look at me. Okay, if intervention is needed, you've done all these amazing things in your class, but you still have a child that's struggling, intervene early. Don't let it go on for months and months and months. If you think that this child's going to need, if they're in tier 3 and they're going to need intervention, intervene early. Involve all supports. Involve former teachers, involve administration, involve the parents, involve anybody that has a real vested interest in this child, because you will get a real sense of where they're at. Excuse me. Evaluate interventions. Just because you're a new teacher, when you start out, you know that child the best. So advocate. Ask your educational assistants, ask your school psychologists, ask anybody who is going to come in an intervention kind of way, and ask them to work on the particular things that you know that child needs to work on. So it's kind of tricky at the beginning when you're first starting off, but be brave and advocate for that child. Number 4, utilize professionals in your school and school district. Oftentimes, school districts will have speech pathologists, psychologists, social workers, those kind of things. Bring those professionals in just again to help you to support this child in the best way possible. Because we know that if kids are not at that reading level by grade 3, they really are behind the rest of their schooling career. And that's a long time to be behind. And finally, number 5 is provide a rich literacy classroom experience. Do everything you can in your classroom to be excited about reading and to give those students as much opportunity as you can possibly give them to engage with literature. Awesome. That's it for vulnerable readers, but there's another whole recording for your sharing of your ePortfolio. So make sure you go there as well. All right. Take care. Bye-bye.